ongoing speculation around the Rwanda plan in the UK, and the Labour Party is looking to make gains. Leader Keir Starmer has promised to set up a new border security command to crack down on human smuggling gangs if the party comes to power. This new unit will be funded by diverting over $93 million from the Rwanda scheme, and the details of the plan will be revealed by Starmer on Friday. Well, the announcement comes after the Dover MP, Natalie Elphicke, defected from the Tories earlier this week and joined the Labour Party. Elphicke said that the shift comes over Sunak's failed attempts at stopping small boat crossings. Her constituency, of course, is the arrival point for many of these small boats. Well, while the Prime Minister Rishi Sunak touts that deportation will reduce the number of crossings, Starmer has said that the move will not equal as a deterrent. Labour has vowed to do away with the scheme if they win the general election, stated for later this year. They are in fact also looking to accept asylum requests from migrants who cross over into the UK. Other than this, the party will seek to introduce a much bigger team of specialist investigators and cross-border police. The new Border Security Command will include personnel from the National Crime Agency, Immigration Enforcement, the CPS and MI5. The party will also extend counter-terror powers. This will include grants to frisk people suspected of being involved in smuggling. However, the Tories have described the plan, and I'm quoting here, as an amnesty for illegal immigrants. They've also accused Labour of wanting to scrap the Rwanda plan, even if it's working. Meanwhile, detentions have begun across the UK. There's little clarity on when the first flight to Rwanda will leave, but for now it is expected to happen in June. Rwanda, on the other hand, has not promised the number of immigrants that they will welcome. It comes as protests and hunger strikes among asylum seekers are on the rise. Over 55 detainees staged a 10-hour-long peaceful protest throughout Wednesday. 30% of these demonstrators were Afghans who claimed to have helped the UK in Afghanistan. Joined by our correspondent John Bevere, joining us live from Bristol this morning. John, it's a contentious issue we've spoken about many times, the Rwanda plan, but of course Rishi Sunak's also had to deal with a MP crossing the House of Commons to join the Labour Party this week.
Yeah, as you said, the Dover MP, and so I think the fact that the MP was from Dover, where these small boats often arrive, well, that just made things even more cutting, didn't it? And the reason for the defection, saying that the Conservatives, that's the government, had not done enough when it came to tackling migration. Of course, critics have argued that actually this was an MP jumping ship. The Conservatives are a long way behind in the opinion polls. So there is that counter-criticism as well. But as you say, we have talked about this Rwanda policy a lot, haven't we? It seems to dominate the discourse here at the moment. And the Conservatives have certainly made this a key election issue, and from what we're hearing from the Labour leader this morning, it seems now that Labour are trying to make it one of their key issues as well. But as you were explaining, there are some fundamental differences in the policies that they're pursuing. Whereas the Conservatives want to send asylum seekers, failed asylum seekers, to Rwanda, those who've entered the country illegally. Labour, on the other hand, say that they would get to do away with that and use the money that was put aside for that scheme in order to improve things like the policing of it, to try and crack down on organised crime gangs. They say that would have a dramatic impact on the number of people who made it here to the UK across the English Channel, and using other means, of course. Not all illegal migrants arrive on these small boats that we see so many images of. The Conservatives say that by sending them to Rwanda, it's going to put people off. They will never make the journey in the first place. Labour have said that actually the Conservatives have been too slow, they haven't done enough, and they've ended up just spending millions and millions of pounds having to house asylum seekers in hotels, for example, and that is hugely expensive. So Labour argue that their plan would be better, more targeted approach to try and crack down on the issue of people smuggling. They say that would be a means of stopping people coming across. I've been to that side of the channel as well, and I've seen some of the migrants just before they were making their journey across the English Channel trying to get to the UK, and certainly people we spoke to said they were paying in order to get a spot on one of these boats. So that would suggest that there are people smuggling gangs in very open operation there in northern France. So that's what Labour are very much pinning their hopes on, that they can spend the money targeting those sorts of groups to stop it. But I would imagine this is going to be something that we keep on talking about until we have an election, which most people expect is going to be in autumn of this year.
And John, of course, we're also seeing certain protests and hunger strikes taking place by some of the detainees as well, which is quite a worrying turn of events, given a lot of these people will also have been through an enormously traumatic time in their lives already.
Yeah, absolutely. And we had here in Bristol about 10 days ago, I think it was, reports of the first failed asylum seekers being taken into custody in order to start the processing of the paperwork so they can be removed to Rwanda, as the Home Office put it. And yes, we are hearing from charities and from aid groups that work with asylum seekers, very much saying that the impact that this is having on people who've already been through so much is really quite difficult to see in terms of the impact it's having on them. A lot of these people, they argue, are desperate and are fleeing situations where their life is in danger, and they have come to the UK hoping to get asylum, and they are having to take these very dangerous routes in order to get here. We hear almost on a weekly basis, don't we, of people dying as they cross the channel. So people having to witness that and then getting to the UK only to then be removed to Rwanda. Certainly critics of the policy say that it is almost cruel and unusual punishment, is how I've seen one harsh critic describe it. So there is certainly that of concern, and I'm sure Labour will say that their policy to target asylum seeking gangs who are moving people, then they would argue that policy is going to have less of an impact on the individual as well. So certainly I would imagine that we'll hear Keir Starmer, the Labour leader, that's the opposition leader, talk about that. I think it's worth remembering as well, as mentioned, Labour are a long way ahead in the polls, so we really should be listening to what Keir Starmer says, because unless there is some huge swing between now and whenever the election might be, then what Keir Starmer is talking about will become policy and will become law before you know it, if they go ahead and win the election, as they are widely tipped to. So definitely worth keeping an ear out later to what Keir Starmer has to say.
Absolutely, we'll be keeping a close eye on that, and it's of course a very complex situation. John Bevere joining us live there from Bristol. Many thanks for your detailed insight.